Welcome to the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast, transforming the way people think and work so their organizations can thrive. Well, hi everyone, and welcome to our podcast. I'm Ed Kless, and with me again is Ford Baker. Ford has over 35 years of experience in public accounting, as well as 20 plus years of experience running the firm Baker Group, PLLC. Ford has a passion for improving efficiency and removing unnecessary clutter when he saw that the industry was doing to his health, and he lost 200 pounds after that fact. So he developed a transaction-based workflow in Excel with other data gathering tools that allow CPAs to do work on this year's tax return. It is now a patented cloud accounting solution that provides client services and efficiency. Ford is a regular contributor for many accounting publications and has taught many webinars on his accounting workflow and efficiency. Welcome to the Sage, or I should say welcome back to the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast, Ed. Ford Baker.
Yes, it's nice to do this at the pancake place that we've met up a couple of times with Caitlin. So it's I'm glad we're not doing that there. It's a lot more distracting with the sandwiches and the pancakes we're working on.
Absolutely. Well, Ford, first a question that I always ask: why do you do what you do?
I hate wasting time. I'm a pathologically lazy person. So a client taught me a couple of years ago when I told him, when he was asking a question about what we did, and essentially answered, what did we do, whatever we did last year. It really challenged me on that concept. You should always be getting better than what you did last year. That became a focus and efficiency. Obviously, the weight loss, I blamed a lot of my weight gain on busy season, tax season. And so I was also, had a lot of motivation around, staying on a bike and doing all that kind of stuff. And so I looked for efficiencies, things that could make it so I could, you may not have mentioned at the beginning, but in 2014, I rode a bike from Canada to Mexico down the Pacific Coast Highway. And that may sound like a lot of work, but it's a lot more fun than doing people's tax returns. And so, I wanted to preserve some of those things, the opportunity to do things. So I just started looking for efficiencies.
Well, I wanted you to tell me about how accounting technology broke public accounting.
Oh, well, that's the topic that we'll talk about at the AICPA conference. So my position is that the industry was better off before we had accounting technology that took off. So if you want to call it the desktop accounting platforms, that back in the day was, what is now Sage 50 or was Peachtree back in the day. That was the dominant player. We'd install Great Plains and things like that. And everybody, at that point, our industry started to go south, started to get worse. And I can say that because prior to that point, our staff was happier. We had more longevity there. We were more proactive. We were more efficient and effective. Therefore, our clients were happier. All without any technology. My second job out of school was to go to work for a CPA firm that had no technology. We had 2 computers in the office. No professionals actually had a computer on their desk. And I was partly tasked with, helping them move over the next 10 years to have a computerized workflow. And at the end of those 10 years, I was manager, and the other person was manager with me. We're noting we were working more hours. I'd been gaining weight every year. It was a ongoing process there. And as I went out on my own in the late 90s and through 2010, every year got worse and worse and worse. And I just saw now in hindsight how much more effective and efficient we were back prior to the technology.
And it was technology that did it. Technology that caused that in the accounting profession.
No, I think that the issue is really, prior to that, we had 2 definite workflows. We had our workflow for our clients that had accountants, and those clients would send us. They typically, by the time the late 80s came around, my clients that had that had their own accountants had accounting software, and so they would send us a trial balance and a general ledger and balance sheet, income statement, all the things we get now. And then we had clients that did not have an accountant, and they would send us check registers and bank statements and things like that, and we would manually put together all of that activity. But when I look back at what we did, even though we manual process. And at the demo, at the AICPA, we're actually going to show what T accounts look like for the guys that haven't, maybe the younger generation that hadn't seen them, how they were used, what a trial balance looked like as we built something like that. How do we do a tax return inside that workflow? Because it's still hard to believe we were more efficient and effective. But when I said the staff here, I left after almost 10 years at that firm. I'd progressed to manager, and I was the second person that left voluntarily over that period of time. This is a 25 man firm by the time I left. And we had essentially 10% turnover over a decade, voluntary staff leaving, as opposed to now, which, some places, some firms are reporting as high as, 10, 15%. The staff are holding on to offers coming out of college for longer than they're staying with their first job. 4 out of 5 people that leave voluntarily. So I can just look and say, I looked as a staff person back then at my managers and partners. They weren't working as many hours as we did. They were meeting with clients. They were doing the things that I saw them they wanted to do, and therefore they were. I wanted to move into that spot. I wanted to be an owner. But now the staff look at what we're doing, and I was working 100 hours, sleeping on a cot, working longer hours than they were. That's not what they want to see. So we're creating our own turnover. That would be what I meant there. We had a thing back there from a proactive standpoint. Back in those days, we had a thing called non-busy season, where the staff would have something that we didn't have anything we would do. And we were taught how to be proactive very early on. There was a girl named Carmen at the firm I was at. She was a senior, and she would dole out all of the work papers from the prior year, and we would start setting up everything for the prior year. And we were tasked with going through the work papers. Did anything look problematic, so that we could give it to the partner, and the partner could say, hey, I'll go ahead and call them, and we'll start working on this early. So the partners would close the doors and start thinking, who do we need to contact to find work to do? Who can we get so we can fill in and be a little more effective and efficient? So they would start calling all their clients. Imagine CPAs calling their clients, hey, it's September, October, just wrapping up. Do you want to get a tax plan? We're trying to get a jump on tax season, and we can get a tax plan started. You got a lot of transactions. Can you send us everything through October? Even if they said no, they appreciated the fact that we reached out to them. And because they appreciated the fact that we reached out to them, they contacted us. They came in and sat down and had meetings with us and went over things. They were happier. I took that job even though it didn't have technology, because it paid commissions, and I was starting a family, and I could not sell accounting services. Now you need a website, and you might have more work than you can handle because everybody's disgruntled. But back then, people didn't want to share all their secrets with everybody. Now they don't feel like share their secrets with anybody, or the world's gone upside down and we'll put anything on Twitter, including our AGI. So, it's a little bit of a different world, but they don't want to have to go back and start over. They felt like they were real engaged with all of us. And so that I just look at the before and after of it and realized that there was a definite efficiency in what we did. And the primary reason is I do not think it's technology's fault. I think that back then accountants had accountants problems, and we created accounting solutions. We became proactive. We knew we had this non-busy season. We knew we had busy season, and we created tools. We helped our clients keep their records up in a way that made it easy for them to drop things in an envelope and get them to us prior to year end, so we could start catching up. We had all kinds of tools and things that made us efficient and inefficient process. When we got accounting software, we started treating everybody like we used to treat everybody, like everybody that had an accountant before. And just because somebody buys, and so that everybody's sending us trial balances and things like that. And just because somebody buys accounting software, doesn't mean they're an accountant. And just because I still have a hard time processing everything, just because I have a client accounting services department that doing all the accounting for me, also doesn't really bring everything to the forefront like it did back in the day. And that's a lot of what we focused on doing, was kind of being an aggregator, a common collection spot for data, so that we could see reporting and issues across all of our clients in a single login.
Well, we'd certainly look forward to you presenting at AICPA conference in a couple of weeks, and we'll get where you'll fill in the details on this. But for it, as you know, we have an exit question that we ask all of our guests, and that is, who is a hero of yours, and why are they a hero?
Well, last time I said my mom and dad and got me choked up. So this time I'll try and do the same, get choked up. But this time it's for the entrepreneur. I think coming out of 2020, we as entrepreneurs, either whether you're in a CPA firm or a technology company, we were presented with things that there was no how-to guide out there. We navigate those things. I describe entrepreneurs as superheroes, and one of the discussions we've done, not you and I, but we've done with folks, they're typically the superhero. Their superpower is born out of some tragic failure, whether it's Tony Stark over in the Middle East, where he gets the arc reactor put in his chest. All was an epic failure out of his pride and things like that. But that failure becomes something that we gain strength from, but it becomes our, for lack of a better word, superpower. So if I'm going to have a superhero, it's going to be the entrepreneur, the guy that navigates whatever happens, despite whoever's in Washington, D.C. or whatever the pandemic is, whatever, the guy that navigates those waters and comes out on the other side, families, pays employees. Those are my heroes.
And lastly, Ford, how can somebody get a hold of you?
Well, my email is Ford, like the automobile, at Baco Tech. Baco is like bacon without the N, bacotech.com. Or you can follow me on Twitter at Ford CPA. Pretty simple. And then I'm on LinkedIn, Ford Baker CPA. Love to hear from anybody. Just reach out to me anywhere those places.
All right. And for a free 1-month trial, we're going to put in the description of this podcast. Take a look at that at Baco Tech. But Ford Baker, thanks so much for being a guest on the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.
You bet. Thank you.
Review and subscribe by searching your podcast player of choice for Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.